Hi, I'm Sue. Thanks for joining me for the today's Bible reading for January 10th, and I'm reading Genesis 30 and 31 today. Verse 1. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I will die." Jacob's anger burned against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in God's place, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" She said, "Behold, my maid Bilhah, go into her that she may bear on my knees, and I also may obtain children by her." She gave him Bilhah, her servant, as a wife, and Jacob went into her. Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Rachel said, "God has judged me and has also heard my voice and given me a son." Therefore she called his name Dan. Bilhah, Rachel's servant, conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Rachel said, "I have wrestled with my sister with mighty wrestlings and have prevailed." She named him Naphtali. So it's two more of the tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel. Verse 9. When Leah saw that she had finished bearing, she took Zilpah, her servant, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Zilpah, Leah's servant, bore Jacob a son. Leah said, "How fortunate! His name will be Gad." Zilpah, Leah's servant, bore Jacob a second son. Leah said, "Happy am I, for the daughters will call me happy." She named him Asher. So there are two more of the 12 sons that became the 12 tribes of Israel. Verse 14. Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." Leah said to her, "Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also?" Rachel said, "Therefore he will lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes." Jacob came from the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must come in to me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes. He lay with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, "God has given me my hire, because I gave my servant to my husband." She named his name Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. Leah said, "God has endowed me with a good dowry. Now my husband will live with me, because I have borne him 6 sons." She named him Zebulun. Afterwards she bore a daughter and named her Dinah. God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived, bore a son, and said, "God has taken away my reproach." She named him Joseph, saying, "May Yahweh add another son to me." When Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away that I may go to my own place and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know my service with which I have served you." Laban said to him, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, stay here, for I have divined that Yahweh has blessed me for your sake." He said, "Appoint me your wages, and I will give it." Jacob said to him, "You know how I have served you, and how your livestock have fared with me. For it was little which you had before I came, and it has increased to a multitude. Yahweh has blessed you wherever I turned. And now will I provide for my own house also?" Laban said, "What shall I give you?" Jacob said, "You shall not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed your flock and keep it. I will pass through all your flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted one, and every black among the sheep, and the spotted and the speckled among the goats. This will be my hire. So my righteousness will answer for me hereafter, when you come concerning my hire that is before you. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and among the black sheep, that might be with me. Wait. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the sheep, that might be with me, will be considered stolen." Laban said, "Behold, let it be according to your word." That day he removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. He set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Jacob took to himself rods of fresh poplar, almond, and plane tree, and peeled white streaks in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. He set the rods which he had peeled opposite the flocks in the water troughs, where the flocks came to drink. They conceived when they came to drink. The flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks produced, streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated the lambs and set the faces of the flocks toward the streak, and all the black in Laban's flock. He put his own droves apart, and didn't put them into Laban's flock. Whenever the stronger of the flock conceived, Jacob laid the rods in front of the eyes of the flock in the watering troughs, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the flock were feeble, he didn't put them in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. The man increased exceedingly, and had large flocks, female servants, and male servants, and camels, and donkeys. Jacob heard Laban's son's words, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's. He has obtained all this wealth from that which was our father's. Jacob saw the expression on Laban's face, and behold, it was not toward him as before. Yahweh said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock, and said to them, I see the expression on your father's face, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. Your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God didn't allow him to hurt me. If he said, The speckle will be your wages, then all the flock bore speckled. If he said, The streaked will be your wages, then all the flock bore streaked. Thus God has taken away your father's livestock and given them to me. During mating season, I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and beheld, the male goats which leapt on the flock were streaked, speckled, and grizzled. The angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, and I said, Here I am. And he said, Now lift up your eyes, and behold, all the male goats which leap on the flock are streaked, speckled, and grizzled. For I have seen that all Laban does to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you vowed a vow to me. Now rise, get out from this land, and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah answered him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Aren't we considered as foreigners by him? For he has sold us and also used up our money. For all the riches which God has taken away from our father are ours and our children's. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do it. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and wives on the camels, and took away all his livestock and all his possessions which he had gathered, including the livestock which he had gained in Padan Aram, to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole the teraphim that were his father's. And the teraphim were household idols that may have been associated with inheritance rights to the household property. Jacob deceived Laban the Syrian in that he didn't tell him he was running away. So he fled with all that he had, and rose up and passed the river, and set his face toward the mountain of Gilead. Laban was told on the 3rd day that Jacob had fled. He took his relatives with him and pursued him 7 days' journey. He overtook him in the mountain of Gilead. God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream of the night, and said to him, Be careful that you don't speak to Jacob either good or bad. Laban caught up with Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountain, and Laban with his relatives encamped in the mountain of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, What have you done that you have deceived me and carried away my daughters like captives of the sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me, and didn't tell me that I might have sent you away with mirth and songs and tambourine and harp, and didn't allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Now have you done foolishly? It is in the power of my hand to hurt you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Be careful that you don't speak to Jacob either good or bad. Now you want to be gone because you greatly longed for your father's house. But why have you stolen my gods? Jacob answered Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Lest you should take your daughters from me by force. Anyone you find your gods with shall not live. Before our relatives, discern what is yours with me, and take it. For Jacob didn't know that Rachel had stolen them. Laban went into Jacob's tent and Leah's tent and the tent of the 2 female servants, but he didn't find them. He went out of Leah's tent and into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the teraphim and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. Laban felt all around the tent, but didn't find them. She said to her father, Don't let my lord be angry that I can't rise up before you, for I am having my period. He searched, but didn't find the teraphim. Jacob was angry and argued with Laban. Jacob answered Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? Now that you have felt around in all my stuff, what have you found of all your household stuff? Set it before my relatives and your relatives, that they may judge between us two. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not cast their young, and I haven't eaten the rams of your flock. That which was torn of animals I didn't bring to you. I bore its loss. Of my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. This was my situation. In the day of the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. That's a tongue twister. I'm going to read that last one again. This was my situation. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night. Well, you could write a whole book on all the problems they had in this family, starting with Abraham. It's kind of funny. 43, verse 43. Laban answered, funny and not funny, right? Kind of sad, actually. And yet it's wonderful that God uses imperfect people, an imperfect family to bring about his perfect purpose. I love it. And brought the Messiah through this beautiful family with all their weaknesses. Verse 43. Laban answered Jacob, the daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see are mine. What can I do today to these my daughters or to their children whom they have borne? Now come, let's make a covenant, you and I, let it be for a witness before me and you. Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. Jacob said to his relatives, gather stones. They took stones and made a heap. They ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jager Sahadutha. Let me see what that means. Witness heap. So it's like a contract. It's like well, it's a memorial. It's a witness to their covenant. And it says, Laban called it witness heap, but Jacob called it Galeed, which is also witness heap. Okay, so one was Hebrew and one was Aramaic. Okay. So Laban called it Galeed for Hebrew. Laban said, this heap is witness between me and you today. Therefore it was named Galeed and Mitzvah, for he said, Yahweh watch between me and you when we are absent from one another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take wives in addition to my daughters, no man is with us. Behold, God is witness between me and you. Laban said to Jacob, see this heap and see the pillar which I have set between me and you. May this heap be a witness, and the pillar a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and that you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor and the God of our father judge between us. Then Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Jacob offered a sacrifice in the mountain and called his relatives to eat bread. They ate bread and stayed all night in the mountain. Early in the morning, Laban rose up and kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. Laban departed and returned to his place. And that is the end of chapter 30 and to 31 for Genesis, for the reading for January 10th. Thanks again for joining me. I just love it. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. God bless you.